Hi, Aria. My name is Ellen, and I'll be correcting this essay for you today. I see that your exam is coming up and you're looking to get a 7. Let's see what kind of feedback we can give you on this essay today to help you to get to that score. This is the essay about international marketing. Here's what you wrote. International marketing, perceived by many as invasive and claimed to have negative impacts on one's country, while others consider it as a positive phenomenon, as it would lead to the spread of ideas, language, and culture. In my opinion, international marketing is a positive development as it fosters competition globally, thus not only beneficial in terms of economics, but also in regard to globalization and harmony throughout the world. Okay. The first thing I noticed is in the first couple of sentences, you had some important grammatical mistakes and spelling mistakes. So those are the first things that I want to talk to you about. So international marketing is perceived by many. You needed the verb is here. Passive voice, and then this was spelled wrong. Invasive. You wrote invasis. I'm not really sure what you wrote. This was also spelled wrong. Is perceived by invasive and is claimed to have. This, I told you, the A and the I are inverted. Negative impacts on one's country, and then here this probably should have just been one sentence. So comma here, lowercase w, and then no comma, then while others consider it as a positive phenomenon with an O, as it would lead to the spread of ideas, language, and culture. Okay, so that all of those changes would make the sentence grammatically correct. However, as you can see, these two sentences had a lot of grammatical errors. Let's see. In my opinion, international marketing is a positive development as it fosters competition globally. And again, this does not need a capital because you don't have a full stop here. It looks like you have a semicolon. Thus, it is not only beneficial, or you could have said, thus, not only is it beneficial, you could have done in terms of economics, but also in regard to globalization and harmony throughout the world. And then you're fine. So those are the major issues with this paragraph. Spelling, grammar, as I mentioned. Okay, let's see now what you wrote after this. First and foremost, careful with the way you spell this. Development and progress we have been witnessing over the last few decades has been mainly due to international trade. Of course, again, look, the only time you want to have a capital letter at the beginning of a sentence is when it's the beginning of a sentence. A comma, a semicolon, these show the continuation of a sentence. So get out of this habit, all right? Okay. Of course, marketing is one of the major components of trade, as without marketing, engaging in trade would be almost impossible. Global trade will flourish provided that companies are allowed, that companies are allowed to freely market their products, whereas limiting it would directly result in a decline in the volume of business activities, detrimental to all governments. Okay. So I'm not really clear about how this paragraph relates to the questions you've been asked. You have been asked, to what extent do you agree, or I think it's discuss both views and give your opinion about the two sides of this issue. One is that international marketing is invasive and intrusive, and the other is that we need it because it's a great, cheap form of education. It spreads ideas and so forth. So what among those two things between those two things does this talk about? I mean, you're talking in a very kind of theoretical, abstract way about how international marketing has really taken over the last couple of decades. It's important for trade. So I don't really think this answers any of the questions that you're asked. It doesn't cover any of the topics. So essentially, while you're talking about a global trade, you're talking about international marketing, you're not talking about what you're supposed to be talking about. So an examiner is going to say that this is somewhat off topic. Okay, please keep that in mind. Secondly, okay, although international marketing may have negative impacts on various aspects, notably, this is spelled wrong. All right, now again, grammar here is a problem. This is not how we use although. So I appreciate your effort in using although, which is something we use in complex grammatical sentences. This is inaccurate. Although needs two sides of a sentence, two clauses, so two opposite, as it were, or contrasting statements. Okay? What you want here, because you don't have two contrasting statements, is probably just however. But it doesn't make sense to have secondly and however. It just makes sense to have one or the other. So I would actually say probably just however would be fine. So, however, international, careful with your spelling again. International marketing may have negative impacts on various aspects, comma, notably, spell it right, language and culture. To elaborate on that, take, for instance, careful with your spelling, the media industry. I don't understand this grammar. Once allowed to be marketed and accessed in one's country, they could impact youth in a way which the government may find troublesome. Get rid of this it, or threatening to a certain extent. Okay, so you're talking about marketing in general. There's nothing in the example or in your statements here that lead me to understand this is specific to international marketing. And so you really need to be careful with this. It's just not particularly focused, and it's not really covering what you're asked to cover once again. Not to mention that it's a rather short paragraph. I think it's what, 2 sentences long? So that doesn't really make a paragraph. You certainly can't have a body paragraph with just 2 sentences. A good rule of thumb is maybe at least 5 sentences, sometimes more. So keep that in mind. But this for me was both underdeveloped and it was also just kind of really remotely related to what you were supposed to be talking about. So I want you to be careful about that. Okay, in conclusion, the aforementioned negative impacts are at most trivial compared to various economic and cultural benefits which all countries can enjoy if international marketing and trade are welcomed. Okay, grammatically this is wrong. You've got another spelling mistake here and another one here. So basically, Aria, I saw a lot of different things happening here. Okay. First of all, the most important for me actually is task achievement. I felt like that had some trouble, didn't really cover what you were supposed to be covering in any parts of the essay. And then there was a lot of spelling error, and there was a lot of grammar error as well. So I want you to be careful with all those things. I want you to do really well in your exam 2 weeks from now. I wish you tons and tons of luck. I hope it goes great. I want you to consider taking advantage of the 2 weeks that you have by signing for some essay correction packages. So much like what we did today, you can get feedback on your writing. We'll give you topics, task 1, task 2, and we'll give you feeding on that to help you prepare and to help you kind of overcome any weak spots that exist in your writing. Okay, so see if that's something that you're interested in. We're here. We're ready to help whenever you're ready. So again, I want to thank you for sending this in, and I want to wish you tons and tons of luck.